Again to the folks here at the Benton Convention Center for their terrific hospitality here tonight, and the folks with the Winston-Salem Marriott who have been our gracious hosts for the last 3 days. A couple of reminders: when you go to the game, you got to have a program. If there are changes to the program, it's the responsibility of the public address announcer to announce the changes. I'm here to tell you that at the bottom of page 1 in tonight's souvenir index card, where the 2022 National Sportswriters of the Year are being honored, that is in fact where it will take place. Over on page 2, behind the Hall of Fame induction of the wonderful Bill Plaschke tonight, the 2022 State Sportswriters of the Year will not be honored there. They will be honored behind the National Sportswriters of the Year, Ken Rosenthal and Pete Thamel. So if you're scoring at home or here at the Benton Convention Center, you scratch the second 2022. We are in the express lane of emceeing tonight, for those of you who've never been around. For the record, and for my colleagues at ESPN, Dick Vitale holds the indoor record at the National Sports Media Association for acceptance. He went 43 minutes and 29 seconds, Coach Corso. How about that, baby, huh? Yeah, awesome. Last year, Curry Kirkpatrick threatened but did not win. Now it's my pleasure to welcome to the stage one of our fellow NSMA board members, president of Greater Winston-Salem, Inc. Please welcome, kids, just back from Omaha, Mark Owens.
That's right, that's right. Welcome to Winston-Salem. My name is Mark Owens, President and CEO of Greater Winston-Salem, Inc., our Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development arm, and so excited to have you here. I also want to extend a warm welcome on behalf of my table mates at Visit Winston-Salem tonight here in Winston-Salem. So welcome to Winston-Salem, home of Hanes Brands, home to Champion, home to Texas Pete's headquarters, home to the largest producer of airplane seats in the country. Yes, we are home to cigarettes. We are also home to the first official Independence Day celebration in 1783. We are home to where George Washington came to study indoor plumbing from the Moravians at Old Salem. We are home to the original Krispy Kreme donut. That's right. There we go. Now we're getting fired up. We are home to the first ever Arts Council in the United States. We are home to the oldest women's college in the country, in Salem College. We are home to NASCAR's first weekly track at Bowman Gray Stadium in 1949. We are home to Wake Forest University and home of the 2022 ACC Men's Basketball Coach of the Year and Coach Forbes, back-to-back ACC Players of the Year, and the 2022 AC Coach of the Year in football, Dave Clawson. We are home to the Winston-Salem State Rams, where Earl the Pearl Monroe once played. We are hometown to the 2022 Big House Gaines Award winner, head coach of the Tar Heels, Coach Hubert Davis. We are home to the 2023 CIAA National Champs, Winston-Salem State men's basketball team. We are hometown to the newest Golden State Warrior and top author with his new book, 61, Chris Paul, at West Forsyth High School. We are home to the second best golf course in North Carolina at Old Town Club, only behind the U.S. Open host, Pinehurst No. 2. We are home to the national champions Wake Forest women's golf team. That's right. There we go. We are home to the number 1 seed, our favorite, and one of the last teams standing in Omaha, the Wake Forest baseball team as well. Let's give them a round of applause. And tonight and all year long, home to the headquarters of the National Sports Media Association. Welcome to Winston-Salem.
It was noted Krispy Kreme got the loudest response. All right, kids, please welcome now to the stage Where is he? Here he comes. The Executive Director of the National Sports Media Association and the blood and guts of this entire awards weekend and national conference, Syracuse grad, the first of many tonight, Dave Gorin.
A little obnoxious. Thank you, Commissioner.
Well, we gotta fix the microphone.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Wes, and thank you for doing this. Wes, obviously the president of the board of directors for NSMA. How about a hand for Wes? The pride of Elon University. What an honor it is to have the chance to lead this organization that does so much good for so many people. From helping to educate and network with the many college students and young professionals who have joined us this weekend, to celebrating excellence in our profession as we did last night and as we are about to do tonight. It's truly a rewarding and humbling job, and I could not do it without the generosity of our sponsors or the assistance of our board and our volunteers. You saw the sponsor names on our video board during dinner. Now I'd like to ask the board members in attendance to please stand and be recognized. I'd also like to thank all of our volunteers who have worked this weekend and before that and will continue to assist through tomorrow, getting everything put back in place to stand and be recognized. And now time to start the awards rolling. We begin our presentation of awards with the Big House Gaines College Basketball Coaches of the Year, named for the legendary Clarence Big House Gaines, who won 828 games in his 47 seasons as head coach at Winston-Salem State. He coached everyone from Cleo Hill, Sr., to Earl the Pearl Monroe, as you heard, to Stephen A. Smith. And that doesn't even begin to tell you how much he helped integrate this city and this area. Our first Gaines Award goes to a North Carolina native who played her college basketball down the road in Raleigh at NC State. 6 seasons in the WNBA, and this past season, her second as head coach of the women's team at Elizabeth City State University. She led the Vikings to a 20-11 record and their first ever berth in the NCAA tournament. Please welcome the Big House Gaines Award winner for Division II, Tanisha Lewis.
Good evening. I can promise you I won't be 43 minutes and 32 seconds. It's a privilege, an absolute honor to receive the Big House Gaines Award. Just reading up on the 47 years that he coached. I don't know about 47 for me, AD, but we'll try to work on them 488 wins still. One thing that I know for sure is Big House Gaines cared about his university, his community, and the people he coached. And I hope to follow in his footsteps in believing in giving back to the community, loving your institution, and taking care of your players. Thank you again. Bless y'all.
Congratulations again, Coach Lewis. Our Division I winner had a unique experience this past season because of an off-court issue with the previous head coach. This man was named acting head coach at the University of Texas on December 12th, just before the Longhorns' 9th game of the season. When a change was made, he became the acting head coach on January 5th. Did the turmoil stop the team? No. He led the Longhorns to a 22-8 record. Those 22 wins included a Big 12 tournament title and 3 wins in the NCAA tournament that got Texas to the Elite Eight. And for that, he is our Big House Gaines Coach of the Year for Division I. Please welcome to the stage Coach Rodney Terry.
Good evening. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge the big picture of this entire weekend here in Winston-Salem. This is your organization's annual convention, and I'm honored to be here tonight among this outstanding group of professionals in your industry. One of the most important lessons I learned early on in my mentors in the coaching profession was about relationships, and that included relationships with the media. You tell the stories and humanize our players and our programs. The rise in popularity of the sport of college basketball across this nation is a direct result of what each of you do on a daily basis. And for that, I sincerely say thank you. As many of you know, I was fortunate and blessed enough to spend 3 years as the head coach at the University of Texas at El Paso. When you think about those that come before you and truly change the game for the better, Coach Haskins and that Glory Road team in 1966 are without a doubt on the mountaintop. Being able to develop personal relationships in my time there in El Paso with several of the players from that famous Glory Road team and their impact cannot be understated. When Dave Gorin called me to let me know that I was the recipient of this particular award named in honor of Clarence Big House Gaines, I was humble and I was moved. One of the things I learned early on was an appreciation for those who have come before you and paved the way. Coach Gaines certainly did that and more. His numbers and achievements are mind-blowing. 47 seasons here at Winston-Salem, 828 wins, 1967 National Championship, well-deserved induction into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame in 1982, but it's so much more than that. Think of the number of players and families that he positively impacted. For me, it's truly about the opportunities he created for others, including myself. He's a true pioneer, and I'm honored to accept this award and have the privilege of being an award winner of Coach of the Year, a Big House Gaines. I'm here tonight representing our players, our entire staff at the University of Texas. We had an incredible run this season. Again, our team probably faced more challenges and adversity than any team this year in college basketball. I thought our guys stayed the course. They really just, we had goals that we set out at the very beginning of the season, and those guys, were on a mission to not have anything deter them away from having a great season. It was probably the most connected team that I've had a chance to be a part of in 32 years of coaching, and I love working with those guys every single day. 32 years, you start aging yourself when you start seeing the number of years you've been coaching and the number of lives, hopefully, that you've impacted and had a chance to set guys on a great vision and path in life. I truly love what I do. I love working with young people, and the good Lord's given me a privilege to be able to do that, and hopefully, gives me an opportunity to continue to do that for years to come in the future. Thank you so much again for having me tonight and for this award. Thank you so much.
And if you notice, I gave both coaches a copy of They Call Me Big House. Goes with the Big House Gaines Awards. Congratulations to both you guys. I mentioned a while ago that a big part of the NSMA's mission is to help students and young professionals navigate their paths. It was so rewarding to see Chris Lewis, who attended one of our first Convergence Summits in 2012, return 11 years later as one of our Idaho Sportscasters of the Year last year, and he was back today as well. One of the highlights of this night is the presentation of the Jim Nantz Award to the Best Collegiate Sportscaster of the Year. For that presentation, I'd like to welcome to the stage the CEO of Sportscasters Talent Agency of America, John Chalesnik. John, come on up.
Good evening. For me, there's a personal irony that I'm up here after Rodney Terry, because I'm a Kansas State Wildcat, and I'll see on the message boards, hey, K-State's really close to signing this star player, and then a week later, they finished second to Texas, and then the same thing happened. Oh, they're really close to this guy. Rodney Terry got him at Texas. So I root for you, Coach, but not when you play the purple. Anyway. First of all, I'd like to thank always Dave Gorn and NSMA for the opportunity to present the award here, but also our judges. Many of the former Jim Nantz Award winners are judges each year, and the only ones who aren't are the ones who've graduated recently enough that I don't want to put them in the position of evaluating their peers potentially, but also Tom Bowman from Learfield and Howard Deneroff from Westwood One. So thanks to all of those people. Our winner this year is very unique in that he comes from a place, his heart, of humility and gratitude. He has many mentors, big-time mentors in his life. Certainly not a name dropper, though. I know that goes to the humility. But meeting his family tonight, I know that's where the humility comes from. That's something that's usually only comes with wisdom if it comes at all. But props to you guys for the exceptional job you've done with the two kids of yours that I know. He also is so dedicated to the craft that I learned this weekend. He had one summer a few years ago where he mandated to himself that he do one practice play-by-play game every day. And his sister was telling me that when they're driving in the car, he's often in the passenger seat with his laptop doing his spotting boards. Last thing to know about him is that while he submitted for this year's Jim Nantz Award football, basketball, baseball play-by-play on radio, he doesn't think so, but he's just as good on television. Please welcome this year's Jim Nantz Award winner. He just graduated from USC, Carlo Jimenez. Before Carlo takes the podium, if you will direct your attention to the video boards for a special message of congratulations.
Hello, friends. I just have a quick word here about Carlo Jimenez. Carlo, congratulations on this night. You deserve it. You really do. I watched your play-by-play tape. It's extraordinary. I'm familiar with your journey, the scholarships that you received to go to USC, including one that has Chick Hearn's name in it. Bravo, bravo. Your play-by-play is really good. And I know this is a lifetime passion. I know that feeling. I'm so honored to have my name attached to your name. And even though I don't have a vote in the process, it means a whole lot more to me that we have a USC student receive this award this year. My oldest daughter, Caroline, graduated from USC's Hannaford School of Communications in 2016. And now we have a Trojan being recognized as the best in the nation. I say fight on for this career you've always wanted. It's going to happen. And I'm so proud to be a small part of it, to be able to say on this night, congratulations, Carlo, for being the best in the nation.
Fight on. How about that? Well, thank you, and this is really, really fantastic and such an honor to be up here. First, I'd like to thank Dave Gorn, everyone at NSMA for hosting such a fantastic event, bringing us all together. There's so many people who have helped me along my journey, and too many to personally thank tonight. But I'd like to recognize a few. First, John Chalesnik, who helped me so much with his resources at STAA. Jack Benjamin, who's here tonight, and Kevin Dana, who first showed me the ropes to broadcasting when I was in high school, and who taught me how to work hard and be kind at the same time. And of course, my parents, who always encouraged me to follow my dreams and whose support is endless. Thanks, Mom and Dad. I love you. I have to thank a couple of organizations as well, USC Athletics and our student radio station, KXSC, for providing me numerous learning opportunities. When I was just a sophomore at USC, I became the sports director of our student station, and now this wasn't because I was very good, but I was the only member of our student radio station interested in sports broadcasting. They literally had no other choice. I'd like to thank KXSC for trusting me to run and grow our sports side of the station. We even had a KXSC member, Eli Kleinman, named to this year's STAA All-American list, which was cool to see, and hopefully many more to come. Finally, I'd like to thank you all. You, as well as my teachers at USC, taught me so much. As a young broadcaster who came from a school with no professors or staff who taught play-by-play, I owe much of my education to your generosity. Thank you for lending an ear to my tapes, for always answering my questions. Thank you for fostering an industry that cares so much about its craft and the young people in it. I could not be more proud to step into an industry that always wants to give back to those trying to make it, and I hope to continue the tradition of teaching as I grow and experience and learn more. Thank you.
Carlo, congratulations. Job well done. John, thank you as always for allowing us to be part of this night. Very special for us as well here at NSMA. On to the first of the 4 Hall of Fame inductees. For the record, the National Sports Media Association Hall of Fame membership currently stands at 130. The Hall of Fame induction began 1962. Grantland Rice was the first inductee, the Dean of Sportswriters in America. A year later, Ted Husing was inducted, the first announcer. 1978, Jesse Owens became the first African-American inducted in the Hall of Fame. And in 2005, Sally Jenkins joined her father, Dan Jenkins, as the first female inductee into the NSMA Hall of Fame. Tonight's first inductee unfortunately passed away just about 13 and a half months ago at the age of 101. Roger Angell was the poet laureate of baseball in America, the only writer ever elected to the American Academy of Arts and Letters and Cooperstown. Author of 4 pieces, and by the way, that's the most of any author in the Library of America. He was the chief fiction editor of The New Yorker for many years. How that translates to baseball, Ken, I'm not sure, but God love him. He was America's premier sports essayist. An amazing, amazing life, let alone his contributions to baseball, and now the NSMA Hall of Fame for Roger Angell. Lee, you and Plaschke, be careful, those jokers are heavy. The next Hall of Famer is one that in this part of the country you might not have been familiar with, but ask those around the country how good Dan Kelly was. Born in Ottawa, became a legend in St. Louis as the voice of the St. Louis Blues. He actually replaced Jay Randolph and Jack Buck, who were the original play-by-play announcers of the St. Louis Blues their first year in existence. I would love to hear tape of Buck and Randolph doing St. Louis Blues hockey. William Taff of Sports Illustrated 1985 wrote of Dan Kelly, "There's the stout Irishman, and then there is the rest of the hockey announcing universe. He dominates his sport like no other announcer." Unfortunately, we lost Dan Kelly in the 1980s to lung cancer. His son John sends his best wishes but was unable to be with us tonight. So tonight we honor the life and legacy of Dan Kelly as an NSMA Hall of Famer. Now the National Sports Writers of the Year for 2022. The history of this honor is very interesting because it was dominated by Jim Murray of the LA Times. Jim Murray won this award 14 times. It's the most of any other sports writer in the country. And there were others that had ties behind Jim Murray, but Murray was the amazing writer and dominated this certainly in the early years of the NSMA up into the 1970s and early 80s. Tonight, our first co-national sports writer of the year is an Emmy Award winner. He spent 35 years covering Major League Baseball, almost 20 of it with Fox Sports and their baseball coverage. He was a 5-time Maryland Sports Writer of the Year in his days with the Baltimore Sun. Senior baseball writer for the Sporting News. He's authored or helped author 3 books, and he's the 19th person tonight to be selected by the National Sports Media Association as a co-national sports writer of the year. Please welcome Ken Rosenthal.
Always need time to adjust the mic. Hope everyone's having a great night. I sure am. It's an honor to be here. The only award I truly ever deserved was when I was in 5th grade. That award was for Best All-Around Student. I was that guy. I was a good enough student. I had all the extracurricular activities a 5th grader could muster. I felt I was a lock. But that year, for some reason, still unclear to me, they changed the definition of the award. They changed it to Best Overall Student. I was not that guy. The award went to Beverly Farris, really smart girl. She eventually went to MIT. And I was crushed. Ladies and gentlemen, I am here to tell you, at the Vernon Elementary School in East Norwich, New York, the fix was in. So my disappointment, it taught me a lesson. And the lesson was, awards are nice, but you can't take them too seriously. You can't get too upset if you lose. But this honor, this is truly, to me, something special. In the current parlance, it hits different. And it hits different for me for a number of reasons. A lot of people, I guess, know me best for the work I do on television. Maybe not the people in this room, but people overall. But first and foremost, I am a writer. That is what I'm proudest of. That is what means the most to me. It has always been that way. It will always be that way. Now, while I'm a writer, I've never considered myself a great writer. I've been a finalist for this award a few times, but I never envisioned myself actually winning. And I never envisioned myself actually winning because of so many people who came before me and did win. You heard about Jim Murray, Red Smith, Frank DeFord, Rick Riley, on and on. Those guys are legends, writers with a capital W. And being on that list, I sort of feel like I do when I'm interviewing Aaron Judge on Fox, which is to say, rather small. Seriously, though, there's one more thing that makes this honor particularly meaningful for me, more meaningful than it would be in any other year. At the end of 2021, I was let go by MLB Network. Long story, but I was let go, at least in my view, because I refused to fall in line with the way the league and a certain commissioner wanted me to report and write. This is the first time I've been eligible for this award since that happened. And this is the first time I've ever won. I do not see this as a coincidence. Now, maybe it's a self-serving narrative, but I suspect, hope, that at least some people who voted for me in part because I would not relent, because I stood my ground. And all of that, it makes me much more grateful. And it leaves me with a lot of people to thank. First, of course, I thank the NSMA for this beautiful night, beautiful week, or weekend, whatever it is. It seems like a really amazing several days. And everyone who voted. To get that kind of respect from your peers, man, outside of Marriott points, that's what we live for. I thank my television bosses at Fox Sports, Ed Gorin in the early years, Eric Shanks, Judy Boyd, Brad Zager, and others more recently. Fox is not owned by Major League Baseball, but it is a partner of Major League Baseball. Yet Fox has never tried to influence what I write. Now, there was that one little pivot to video moment a few years back that cost me my writing job at foxsports.com, but the TV side had nothing to do with that, and honestly, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Losing that job led me to The Athletic, the best publication I've ever worked for. 14 of our writers are being honored here tonight, including 5 who cover baseball. Now, The Athletic, like a lot of outlets, is going through some difficult times. Our recent layoffs cost us, among others, the Maryland Sportswriter of the Year, my friend, someone I respect greatly, Dan Connolly. You go through these things, and let's face it, you lose a little faith. But on our best days, in my opinion at least, The Athletic is as good as current sports writing gets. I thank Paul Fichtenbaum for bringing me aboard. I thank my editors, Emma Spann and Sarah Goldstein, Emma in particular for frequently saving me from myself, and I thank our amazing baseball writing staff. We are a team that is intensely collaborative, and it gives me great strength. My agent, Maury Gosfran, is here tonight. We have been together since 2005. Maury has always understood who I am, never asked me to change. And let's face it, when I lost the job at MLB Network, I cost Maury money too. But not once did he say, "Dude, what are you doing?" Nope, he stood by my side. Maury, I thank you for everything, but nothing more than that. My wife, Lisa, she too is here tonight. And if there is anyone who understands the sacrifices of our partners and what they do for us, it's the people in this room. Lisa and I have been married for 33 years. I cut our first date short because I had to go write a notes column. Sadly, I must admit, not a lot has changed. Lisa is the rock of our family, the mother of our 3 children, Sam, Hannah, and Sarah, all adults now, all wonderful people. She too has stood by me always, and never more than during those years when MLB Network was effectively trying to bully me into submission. She basically said, "Don't you dare stop. You do what you have to do." Thank you, honey. I love you. Finally, I want to mention 3 baseball writing brothers who we've lost in recent years. Jerry Fraley, Joe Strauss, Pedro Gomez. I think of them a lot, particularly when I'm writing something that is going to create blowback, whether it's from fans, social media, player, agent, league, team. It's a day that ends in Y, something might be coming at you. All of those guys were fearless. Jerry welcomed confrontation. Joe, and a few people in here knew him, could find a conspiracy in his sunrise. And Pedro, Google the column he wrote on Curt Schilling, basically calling him out as a fraud on the day Schilling started Game 7 of the 2001 World Series. Pedro wrote that for the local paper, the Arizona Republic. To this day, it blows my mind. Those guys, I try to carry their spirit with me. I hear their voices in my head. And they're telling me, keep fighting, keep going. Thanks, everyone.
Beautifully said, Ken. Thank you. Congratulations again. The 20th person to be named a National Sportswriter of the Year by the National Sports Media Association is Pete Thamel. Just over a year ago, he joined ESPN and to this day continues to be one of our nation's most trusted voices when it comes to college athletics. And if you're just joining the program, we got a few things going on in college athletics. Pete's work, New York Times, Sports Illustrated, Yahoo Sports, and now to ESPN. He's been decorated wherever he's worked and has been nominated for the Pulitzer Prize. Please welcome the other National Sports Writer of the Year from ESPN and ESPN.com, Pete Thamel.
I just wish they'd had me go before Ken so I don't have to follow him. First of all, I'd just like to thank Dave and the NSMA. Obviously, thank Wes for the nice introduction. Congratulate Ken, all the other winners, the Hall of Famers, and the State Award winners. It's a really cool vibe to see the next generation come up, speak at a panel today, and just happy and proud to be part of it. So for me, sitting here today with my family, my primary, as you can tell from my voice right now, just a lot of gratitude for being here. They say it takes a village to raise someone up, and for me in this profession, it's taken a bunch of villages. For a profession that's often romanticized, you don't get a lot of time to reflect. There's always another tweet, another story, another hit. So it's been pretty overwhelming since Dave called in January to take the time to really reflect back and appreciate it. Peeking back this week at the list of winners, you see Bob Ryan sitting down there in front of me, Peter Gammons, two of my heroes growing up in Massachusetts, and it's overwhelming and humbling to be presented in their company. So just want to offer my sincere gratitude to the NSMA for doing that. I'm pretty sure 50 years from now, people are going to look back, see my name lumped in that company, and look at it like the year BYU won the national title in football in 1984. And kind of be like, how did that happen? I'm beyond fortunate for the opportunity to be the anomaly. From the time I was 15, I'm the sports editor of the Cathedral Chronicle back in Springfield, Mass. It was the only profession I ever wanted to be in. It's the only life I really ever imagined happening. I went to school for it at Syracuse. The last non-journalism job I had was in the ticket office at the Shine Student Center, and I was terrible at it. So thankfully, I quit. I worked at the school paper, and kind of off we went. There's actually too many people to thank. Wes has wanted me to move the chains. So, but along the way at the Daily Orange, Syracuse Post-Standard, New York Times, Sports Illustrated, Yahoo. I really want to tell the story about how my first day at Yahoo, I spent the day on the phone trying to find the escort that got a certain SEC football coach hired, but we can go to the bar later and I can fill you in on that one. I knew I was at home that day. I was like, I think I made the right choice here. A year ago, I got the call to work at ESPN, and it's not a coincidence that I'm standing here today, considering the platform, the support, and the editing, definitely the editing, that allowed me, yes, thank you, that allowed me to go here. But for ESPN, I want to thank Coach Corso, so deserving of Lifetime Achievement Award. I learned quickly this year, kind of tagging along on College Game Day. College Game Day, the show, is almost like a trust. It's passed on from college town to college town, year to year, generation to generation. Nobody's built that trust, epitomizes the bond, or spread it more than Coach. So grateful to call you a teammate, Coach. Thanks for being so kind to a rookie. One of the biggest villages and the best villages at ESPN is College Game Day. And so many people. It's literally a city that moves week to week every year, and the operation is intense. So I want to thank Seth Markman, Lee Fitting, Drew Gallagher, Jim Galliero, Jeff Brown, Jonathan Wiley, Lindsay Lloyd. They supported me while I learned TV and did the occasional TV hit without taking a breath. Probably sounds a lot like this speech right now. In the same breath, I want to show my appreciation for my teammates there, Reese Davis, Kirk Herbstreit, Desmond Howard, David Pollack, Pat McAfee. He keeps you loose. June Wojciechowski, Jess Sims, Jen Lotta. They all welcomed me with open arms and really appreciated my small role in the show. That kind of makes me feel like I'm name dropping, which is probably annoying. The real game day magicians are the logistics crew. They move the show week to week and bring joy from Boone to Bozeman. I can't thank all of them enough for making me feel like part of the team. They really are the best of ESPN. The best editors are the ones who make you feel like you work with them and not for them. Something I've learned over the years. That's why I have so much gratitude for my team at ESPN Digital. Christina Douglas, Ryan Cantor-O'Meal are here, Nate Ravitz, Lauren Reynolds, Tony Moss, David Kraft. We have a whole news desk, like it's the 50s. All those folks who get calls from me about Minnesota wide receiver coaches at 1 in the morning. A lot of patience comes with working with me, so I can't thank them enough. I also want to thank my teammates in digital. We have a 16-person college football writing team, and I have two guys, Jeff Warzel and Myron Metcalf, who I cover hoops with. They're all great. Special thanks to Jeff Passan. I watched his speech and Woj's speech from years past and stole a bunch from them, so I appreciate it. Those two, along with Adam Schefter, really just helped me learn the ropes at ESPN. They've been great resources, taking calls, and I especially want to thank Woj. He hounded the higher-ups at ESPN to hire me kind of the same way he stalks GMs about trades. The intensity of his friendship and support are as glaring as the stress as the time a trade broke while I was sitting with him at Fenway Park, and I had to spell Boban Virinovic's name to him while he was typing the tweet out. I still think of it as my most stressful moment at ESPN. Finally, I want to thank my family. Ooh, I got to get through this. My parents, Pat and Peter, here. My dad's an old high school principal. I left the Boston Globe on my bed in the Springfield Union News every day. And they both made it clear to me that I should chase my dreams. My mom fostered my love of sports. She watched the Patriots like before they cheated, when they went 1-15. Every Sunday, long before Belichick, Rod Rust, all the bad years, she'd iron clothes. And so my fondest memories of growing up were watching sports with my mom. My parents scraped the money together to send me to Syracuse, supported me every step. So thanks. Finally, I need to thank my wife, Kate. I checked my Marriott app last night. In the last 22 years, I've spent 3,346 nights at Marriott's. That's not impressive. It's generally pretty sad. It's like 8 years. She's had countless dinners interrupted. I got flashback when Ken was talking about his first date. Car trips sidetracked, random parking lots pulled over to break stories. I even broke the Toledo ID hire while our son Teddy was being poured in the hospital. I'm not really proud of that, but I probably should have passed on that one. It's a dream job for me. It's not a dream lifestyle. Ken mentioned it. I think anybody here knows the travel's relentless. Kate holds it together, pushes the three of us forward, and constantly reminds me being Teddy's dad is my most important job. So thanks everyone for your time. Thanks for having me. Truly honored.
That's awesome. Now time to introduce the 2022 NSMA State Sportswriters of the Year. Before we get to the formal introductions, I'd like all the state sports writers to go to your right, my left. And this is often the trickiest part of the night. Caitlin and Hannah are there. They're going to ensure that we line you up alphabetically by your state. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you're thinking the same thing I'm thinking. I never knew Colorado was ahead of Alabama. So, while that happens, it's a pleasure. We have several traditions here at the NSMA, and one of our best is the man who introduces the state sports winners of the year for sports writing and sportscasting. Please welcome a longtime friend of NSMA, a winner in his own right in his career, ladies and gentlemen, Doug Logan.
Thank you very much, Wes. I'd like to ask Bill Plaschke to please join me up on stage. On behalf of all of our state winners, heartiest congratulations to our national honorees and a special salute to our Hall of Fame inductees. Bill? Given all the challenges that we're facing with travel these days, the National Sports Media Association is indeed proud that we have more than 4 dozen state honorees on hand this evening, representing a remarkable 36 states and the District of Columbia, with 35 first-time winners. So now let's meet our 2022 NSMA State Sports Writers of the Year. From Alabama, he covered the tumultuous saga of Brian Harson's coaching tenure at Auburn, Cadillac Williams as interim coach, and the hiring of Hugh Freeze. He also reported on an Olympic gold medalist, 2 lottery picks, and a college baseball World Series. First NSMA honor for Nubias Wilborn. From Georgia, the 17-year beat writer for the Atlanta Falcons, he reported on the Super Bowl collapse and bagged an exclusive interview with quarterback Matt Ryan after he was traded. First NSMA award for D. Orlando Ledbetter. Also from Georgia, he followed the Atlanta Braves to their 5th consecutive National League East title and eventual loss to the Phillies in the Division Series playoffs. Second win for David O'Brien. From Idaho, this first-year Boise State beat reporter covered such spectacles as the 2022 Frisco Bowl and got intimately familiar with the phrase name, image, and likeness. First win for Jordan Kay. From Indiana, he survived 41 years in the business. He wrote about Wayne Gretzky's 8-game tenure at the old Indianapolis Racers and an oral history of the decline of Indiana Hoosiers basketball. Third honor for Bob Kravitz. From Kansas, in his second year covering the Jayhawks for the Topeka Capital Journal, he was in New Orleans as KU won its 2nd national championship under Bill Self, and in Memphis as the Jayhawks played in their first bowl game in more than a decade. First trip to Winston-Salem for Jordan Gusky. From Maryland, a Baltimore native, he spent 22 years covering Major League Baseball for 4 different outlets. In 22, he saw the Orioles post a winning record for only the 5th time in his tenure. Second win for Dan Conley. Also from Maryland, covering the Baltimore Orioles for many years, the last 5 for BaltimoreBaseball.com. He chronicled the O's historic 31-game turnaround and the debut of star rookies Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson. First award for Rich Dubroff. From Massachusetts, after 38 years covering sports for the Boston Herald, she moved to MassLive.com, where she chronicled Bill Belichick moving past George Halas into second place behind Don Shula on the all-time NFL wins list. First NSMA honor for Karen Garigian. From Minnesota with the St. Paul Pioneer Press, this beat reporter covers the Minnesota Golden Gophers in football and basketball, as well as the United Football Club in Major League Soccer. First trip to Winston-Salem for Andy Greeter. From Montana, out of Bozeman, he just completed his second year as the Montana State beat writer for 406mtsports.com. He began 22 covering the Bobcats football team in the FCS championship game. First win for Victor Flores. From Nebraska, 39 years at the World Herald covering high school sports statewide and golf regionally. His book, Nebraska Golf, Out of the Shadows, received the 22 Nebraska Book Award for nonfiction. He also won the Omaha Sports Commission's Sports Media Person of the Year Award. First honor for Stu Pospisil. From New Hampshire, he covers Dartmouth College athletics, focusing on football, as well as 14 high school sports programs in New Hampshire and Vermont. Highlights include a deep dive into the state of girls and women's sports on the 50th anniversary of Title IX. First recognition for Benjamin Rosenberg. From the great state of North Carolina, a Raleigh native who has worked 12 years at the News and Observer. He wrote about Coach K's final march, a high school team season in one of North Carolina's most disadvantaged communities, and the juxtaposition of Michael Jordan's birthplace. First award, make that second award now for Andrew Carter. From North Dakota, 19 years as beat writer covering the Fighting Hawks football program for the Grand Forks Herald, he covered North Dakota in the FCS playoffs, the Frozen Four, and the NCAA basketball tournament. Second honor for Tom Miller. From Pennsylvania, on the Penn State football beat since 2010, she reported on the Nittany Lions' run to the Rose Bowl, examined a coaching search from 50 years ago, and tracked down the story behind one of college football's quirkiest prizes, the Land Grant Trophy, that goes to the winner of the Penn State-Michigan State football game. First trip to Winston-Salem for Audrey Snyder. From South Carolina, he spent the last 2 years at the Post and Courier in Charleston after 9 years in Bloomington, Indiana. He arrived at the Clemson Tigers football beat just after their 6th straight playoff appearance. They haven't been back since. First win for John Blau. Also from South Carolina, she switched to the national recruiting beat for The Athletic after 5 years covering Clemson Tigers football. She says the ever-changing recruiting landscape is just plain zany. Fourth time honored, Grace Raynor. From Tennessee, he covers all sports in Nashville from high school to the Titans. He's worked 38 years as the Tennesseans' consummate utility man, focusing on local colleges with stints as beat writer for the Predators. First visit to Winston-Salem, Mike Oregon. From Texas, 38 years with the Dallas Morning News 23 as sports columnist. He's published in the Best American Sports Writing and Best American Newspaper Writing. He covered the Mavericks' death-defying rise to the Western Conference Finals. 6th NSMA honor for Kevin Sherrington. From Utah, in her third season covering the Jazz, she reported on the head coach stepping down and the team entering a rebuild by trading away 2 All-Stars in deals that sent shockwaves through the NBA. First win for Sarah Todd. From Vermont, 23 years working for the Barry Montpelier Times Argus Sports Department, his coverage ranges from youth and high school sports to the talented crew of Winter Olympians from the Green Mountain State. First award, James Bigham. From Virginia, 16 years at the Richmond Times-Dispatch, where he's the sports editor covering the Washington Commanders. He's a 7-time Associated Press Sports Editors Award winner and 3rd consecutive winner from the Times-Dispatch. First recognition here for Michael Phillips. From Washington, focusing on the human side of the Seattle Seahawks players, coaches, and personalities, he detailed Russell Wilson's trade and Geno Smith being raised by his grandmother in Miami and reviving his NFL career. Second NSMA win for Greg Bell. And from West Virginia, in his 4th year with HD Media, he just wrapped up his first season as beat writer for the Marshall University Thundering Herd. His work appears in several newspapers, including the Huntington Herald-Dispatch and the Charleston Gazette-Mail. First honor for Luke Creasy. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have one more big round of applause for all of our state-winning sports writers.
Plaschke had no idea there was all this other stuff that comes with Hall of Fame inductions. Time for our next Hall of Fame induction, the Sunshine Scooter. Please welcome, to present Lee Corso for induction into the National Sports Media Association Hall of Fame, the president of the Atlanta Sports Council, Coach's son, Dan Corso.
Well, good evening. It is wonderful to be here. This is really a unique opportunity for me. And I want to, before I introduce my dad, Lee Corso, I want to thank Dave Gorin and congratulate Dave and the NSMA tonight, as it's the 63rd meeting. Now, 5, 10, 15, 20, that's a long time, but 63 times having this event is incredible. So congratulations, keep it going. You know, yeah. Now, as impressive as 63 is, 70 is a little bit better. And 70 is the number of years that Lee Corso has been associated with the game of football, either as a high schooler in Miami-Jackson at the age of 18, through college football, through professional football, or USFL, professional, all the way now into ESPN. And along that path, along that 70-year path, he's been inducted into 3 Hall of Fames: the Florida State University Hall of Fame, the University of Louisville Hall of Fame, and the Indiana University Hall of Fame. And now, as he approaches his 36th season at ESPN and his 88th birthday, I am proud to announce that Lee Corso is the 2023 NSMA Hall of Fame inductee. Corso?
I want to thank the NSMA for this terrific honor. And thanks to my son. Thanks to my son, Dan, for the wonderful introduction. I'm proud of him. I love you, Dan. Congratulations to all the award winners. And thanks to ESPN for putting up with me for all these years, 36 of them. On May 16th, at 8:30 in the morning, 14 years ago, I had a stroke. A stroke, it affected me. I couldn't talk. And for a person that made his living talking, that's pretty bad. But ESPN could have dumped me. But they didn't. They stayed with me while I recovered. As I recovered, the last thing the doctor told me, Lee Corso, you will never be the same after having that stroke. He is right. I want to leave you with two things that I live by that could have been reasons why I made it so long. Never prostitute your integrity to get a job or to keep one. Never prostitute your integrity to get a job or to keep one. And the greatest glory you can have is never falling. Not in never falling. The greatest glory you can have and not in never falling, but rising every time you fall. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
Coach, congratulations. And thank you, sir, for being here tonight. Thanks, Dan. Ladies and gentlemen, since we were here a year ago, we've lost several of our colleagues. I invite you now to join me in a few moments of silent recognition as we remember all those who contributed to us, our industry, and their families. Thank you very much. I was outvoted by the national board, by the way, on this next agenda item. We're going to take a 5-minute break. It's not normally what I do, but I lost the vote. Quick 5-minute intermission, stretch a leg, grab an extra beverage of sort perhaps, and when we come back, we will be in the final turn of this year's awards program. Thank you. I don't know that 9:30 is going to work. Ladies and gentlemen, a quick side note before we resume. Are there any meteorologists here? Pseudo meteorologists, pocket meteorologists, guys that on weekend do sports and weather together on the threes? Thank you, appreciate that. Just double checking on how the weather went. Okay. For our next honor of the evening, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Vice President of Broadcast Operations for Learfield, longtime friend of NSMA, Mr. Tom Bowman.
It's an honor to be here as always. I have the privilege of awarding the Woody Durham Voice of College Sports Award. This was an award that we created in conjunction with Learfield, the NSMA, and the University of North Carolina's athletic department back in 2018. If you were a fan of the Tar Heels, you knew how much Woody meant to people. If you are a fan of your particular voice of the program, there's one sitting right here. Fans love that. And so it means a lot for us to recognize other legendary voices of the program. You know what I'm talking about. This is your main voice. Football, men's basketball, the Banquet. Poor Gene Deckerhoff has been doing so many of those things for years. He had to leave us finally so he could have some time off with his wife, which is fantastic, by the way. $5 more a year, by the way. 5 more. So every year we get together as a committee and we pick this year's nominee. The recipient for this award is chosen by this committee who evaluates based on a certain criteria. Things like preparation, recognizability with their particular school, tenure, efforts in the community, mentorship with young broadcasters, and of course, character. This year's recipient, Rich Schwatkin, say that right? I worked on it all day in my room, by the way. He just completed his 48th season as the voice of the Georgetown Hoyas. His debut, November 30th, 1974, came after he noticed they didn't have a radio broadcast for Georgetown. You had showed up at Walter Reed and went to some games and went, what's going on? And he had done some in college, and through a turn of some events, which I'm sure he'll get a chance to tell you, he started doing Georgetown games. He grew up in Scranton, worked in Washington in '72, and the rest is history there. He's broadcast half of the entire history of Georgetown basketball games, 1,500 plus, and many more to come. His streak is not continuous, however, as he was called into military service during the 1991 season as a part of Operation Desert Storm. Impressive. And while that is incredibly impressive, this stat I think is even more impressive. In 1986, he began broadcasting without an analyst and has been solo ever since. There are a lot of play-by-play voices in here right now that like to know your secret because they'd like to keep the mic all to themselves. So congratulations on that. Georgetown fans will smile when they hear that incredible noise, Hoyas win. It gives me great pleasure to present the 2023 Woody Durham Voice of College Sports Award to Georgetown's Rich Schwatkin.
yellow sheet out. Never have I done a Georgetown broadcast without my yellow sheet. You know, I'm old school. Yellow sheet. Everybody's got digital stuff. They have every gadget known to man, every social media gadget known to man. I've been doing this for 49 years this way, and I think I've been pretty good at it. You know, I've had a unique history to get to where I am today after 49 years doing Georgetown basketball. I grew up in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and I was always a sports junkie. I loved just carrying my transistor radio around with me in my earlier years, listening to great broadcasters like Mel Allen, Red Barber, and as I got on and went on to undergraduate school, listening to Marv Albert and the great college broadcasters and the great national broadcasters of that time. Well, what happened in between my 2 graduate years, guess what? I worked for the state of North Carolina. I was offered a position to work in a mental health facility in between my freshman and sophomore years in my master's program. And what happened was I worked in Reidsville, North Carolina. And to make a long story short, when I got to North Carolina, the individual said to me, "You can live in my house, you can work with me, but first you have to pass a state test in North Carolina." So I drive down to Raleigh and took the civil service test. I passed it, and there I was working for the state of North Carolina in 1968. So I've had an indoctrination to the Tar Heel State way back when. I know Woody Durham didn't start until the early 1970s, but I've had a long history of just operation in the Tar Heel State. And again, I just want to thank Dave Gorin and the NSMA for the job that they have done in promoting this operation. It is just amazing to me, and I've been involved with basketball for almost 50 years, and to come to a facility like this, the way they've packaged this is just tremendous. The people I have met that I haven't seen in years, the young aspiring broadcasters that I talked to throughout the course of the 2 days, and therefore I got nominated into the all-lobby team. You know, I've been proud of that. I've been proud of the associations and relationships that you make to be a part of the all-lobby team. And I want to thank Dave and especially Wes for offering me this opportunity. When Dave called me, Georgetown was going through a lot of struggles. We had not won a conference game at that particular time when he called me in January of last year. You know, we were really struggling under Coach Ewing. But never once did I ever waver, never once did my professionalism, never once did my dedication to the craft ever stop. I prepared every game like it was my first game and like it was my last. And I hope that my broadcast reflected that. So he called me and he said, "You've been given the Woody Durham Award." And I said, "You know, Dave," I said, "I was a great fan of Woody Durham. When I first started at Georgetown with Coach John Thompson, he used to always tell me the program that he most liked to emulate was the Carolina Tar Heels and Dean Smith. And obviously the broadcaster for North Carolina was Woody Durham. And every time we used to play the Tar Heels, I used to go over and talk to Woody before the game and always chat with him because I saw how just a tremendous, tremendous broadcaster he was, his professionalism, his dedication, and how much the Tar Heel State loved him. And Wes, I want to thank you for an opportunity to give me this award as well. So how did I start this? So way back in 1974, Georgetown didn't have any men's basketball. So I made some tapes. I went over to the Washington Bullets, who at that time were at Capitol Center, and I probably did about 10 to 12 tapes. You know, sitting there at press row during the time when they had Earl the Pearl Monroe and Jack Marin. Pete Maravich played for the Atlanta Hawks, so I had an opportunity to do some real good pro games, but on tape. I went to Georgetown University. They didn't have any men's radio, and I did some tapes in the 1973-74 season. And Coach really liked it, and he said, you know, come back next year and we'll see what happens. And of course, I come back the next year, and basically, he said, "You're the voice of the Hoyas." Wonderful. I was like on cloud 9. He said, "But guess what? We don't have a radio station, and we don't have any advertising, so good luck." So what do you do then? You're the voice of the Hoyas, but there's no station, there's no advertising, there's no way to get on the air. So I was still active duty in the military at the time. I was a captain at Walter Reed, and Coach Thompson, athletic director Frank Rienzo, and myself in my military uniform go to WOOK AM in Washington, D.C. on North Capitol Street. It was a small station. No one else was able to pick us up, so we figured we'll take one more chance. So we walk in there, and Bud Myers was the general manager, and he's there with a cigar, put his feet up on the desk, and he said, "Tell me, what's the pitch?" So they looked at me and said, "Okay, you want to start?" So I said, yes. I said, I showed him a tape that I did of Coach Thompson and some of the games. He said, "Oh, not too bad." And he said, "What else?" And I said, "We'd like you to carry our games. I think John Thompson's going to turn the program around. This is the year number 3 of his program." He was 12 and 14, 13 and 13, brought back all his kids. And I said, "This is the year that they're going to get to the NCAA tournament." He said, "You know what? I'll take a chance on you." He said, "However, tell you what, I want $10,000. You pay Rich's line charges. You pay Rich's talent. I'll put you on the air." So Coach Thompson and I and Frank Rienzo said, we really didn't have a choice. So that's how we got on the air. And at the end of November 1974, I was on the air. All right, so that's the start of it. At the same time, I'm dating this beautiful woman, Lynn Simmons, who eventually became my wife, 49 years and counting. And what happened was I asked her, I said, "I'd really like to get into broadcasting. How do you feel about that?" And she said, "Well, go for it." And the good news about that, I said, "Do you have much background in sports?" She said, "Let me tell you something, young man. I grew up across the street from Fran Tarkenton. I know a little bit about sports," and she was a big UGA fan. She grew up in Athens, Georgia. And, of course, we got married the next year, and I was able to get on the air. And then, of course, we raised 3 kids. And she used to always tell my children, "You can listen to your father as long as you do your homework and take a bath." So, and the games at that time were always consistent, Wednesday night and Saturday night. So it made it a lot easier to package this thing. At the same time, I had just gotten out of the active Army. I spent 6 years on active duty, and then 22 more years, and I retired as a colonel in 1997 with 1 Gulf War deployment. So I've had consistency, 49 years of marriage, 49 years of broadcasting, 49 years in the military, and now I'm starting my 50th year of a psychotherapy and mental health practice. So I can honestly say I've been a pretty consistent institutional man. But remember, you have to juggle all that stuff. You have to juggle family, you have to juggle your profession, you have to juggle the military, you have to juggle the basketball, and try to do that. I look back on this thing, and I had 1,000 hours of weekends, the 5 months that you do the basketball, that you had to juggle. So you had to juggle your regular job, you had to juggle your military career, you had to juggle basketball, and you had to juggle your family. And I never missed a ball game until I was activated into Desert Storm. I offered Saddam Hussein 2 tickets to the Big East tournament. He refused, and there we were. So eventually I came back in April. I mean, I really tried hard. I mean, after we beat the Iraqis in just that short war of 4 days, with Norm Schwarzkopf's big left hook into Iraq, and I thought by March 4th, maybe another couple of weeks, maybe I can make the Big East tournament, but Saddam wouldn't go for it, but I did try. So then fast forward, doing the Georgetown games, never missed one, and after I came back from the Gulf War, never missed another one. And I want to thank some people here who've been very instrumental in helping my career. First of all, my daughter Pam is here, just a lovely young lady. She twitters all over the place. She's been at every sports event known to man, and she's really helped me with my Twitter handle. Dan O'Neill is the Senior Associate Athletic Director at Georgetown and especially involved in external affairs, and he has been my right-hand man. I mean, he treats me like every away game, he takes good care of me. Make sure I get to the arena, make sure I get my meals, make sure everything. I'm 77 years old, and one day I told Dan, I said, I'm not 97, I'm 77, but thank you, Dan, for the job you've done. And, of course, Sports Information Director Diana Palupa to giving me all the information, all the facts, whatever I need to carry out the broadcast. And doing it alone since 1986, it's all you. There's nobody else. So when I sit down there at 7:45 for an 8 o'clock game, I'm locked into that chair until the game is over at 9:45. And I was talking to No Eagle, just before we came into this arena, and I said, the hardest thing is to sit there and not be able to go to the bathroom for 2.5 hours. I mean, try that sometime. I told him I could drive from here 6 hours to North Carolina and never once have to go to the bathroom. And before a game, I may have to go 6 or 7 times 5 minutes before the start of a broadcast. That's nervous energy. So how did I get to do the job for the Georgetown Hoyas for so long, and how was I identified as the voice of the Hoyas? Well, perseverance, professionalism. I worked very hard at my craft. I would prepare 2 to 3 hours for each game. In fact, my wife would say to the kids, or to herself, she would say, when he's in the zone preparing, don't bother him, just leave him alone. I have all my notes, I have piles all over the place on the kitchen table, on the coffee table, in the bedroom, on the floor in the garage. She said, leave him alone for 2 hours till he can do his preparation. And I've done that roughly for 49 years. One young man a couple of years ago was sitting down at one of the Hoya Hoop Club tables, and he said, Mr. Schvatkin, can I get a picture with you? I said, by all means. I love the kids who are growing up and just enjoy the passion that they have for these kind of games. And he said, I just want to tell you something. I enjoy your broadcast. I enjoy what you do. I enjoy your professionalism. And he said, I want to tell you one more thing. I've heard your voice more than my mother's. So moving on further, you talk about loyalty and commitment. About 10 years in, John Thompson called me in the office one day, and he said, Rich, I just want to tell you something. He said, some young man came into my office, and he said, I want to do your games. He said, I know you have Rich. I know he does a good job, but I think I can do better. Will you give me a chance? And Coach Thompson said to me, let me tell you what I told him. He said, first of all, Rich was with me from the start. He's been very loyal. He's very professional. He's good at what he does. He's never missed a game. And he said, most important, I told him I like the guy. And that was really important to me to let me know that he has my back. And that's why I've been able to keep this job for all these years, because people have taken real good care of me. One year, we usually charter to our trips. And one year, the team went out commercial, and we went out by a commercial vehicle, and basically normally we charter. So to make a long story short, what happened that night, the plane was canceled. So we had to then go commercial, the 4 of us, from Washington to Cincinnati, rented a car and raced over to Indianapolis for the game against Butler. And normally I see Coach Thompson 2 hours before the game to do our pregame show. You know, we like to do it, we like to get set up so he can go back and do his thing, you know, to get ready for the ball game. So we barely made it about an hour before the game, and I know it was running kind of late. So we went back to the locker room, and, you know, I'm about to interview Coach, and I said, John, I said, you know, I'm so glad I was able to make it. I said, it was really a harrowing experience to get here on time, and so and so and so and so. And I said, you know, I do these games alone. I said, I don't know what we would have done if I didn't make it. And he looked me straight in the eye, and he said, Rich, if you didn't make it, I would have canceled the game. So that just shows you the dedication and the loyalty. You know, again, doing these games from 1974 to where it is now, 49 years, and basically never missing a ball game, 1,537 games and counting, and now we have a new coach in Ed Cooley. So big things are coming for the Georgetown Hoyas. I've had a wonderful opportunity to call some of the greatest games in college landscape. The 1979-1980 ball game at Manley Fieldhouse, when John Thompson said, you know, we have a lot of Syracuse fans here, and I know they won't hate me for this, Manley Fieldhouse is officially closed on that snowy Monday night. And I think that generated the rivalry that got the Big East jump-started like that. And then, of course, when Patrick Ewing was recruited to the Georgetown Hoyas and finally signed on the dotted line and went over to Gary Williams. We were playing American University, and Gary was coach at AU at the time. And I said, Gary, what do you think about Ewing signing? Because I know, you know, a lot of schools were after him. Boston, North Carolina, everybody, UCLA was after Patrick, so he signed with Georgetown. And he said, Rich, I'll tell you what, you go home, get out a calendar for the next 4 marches, tell your wife, don't make any plans, you're going to be going to the Final Four. And of course, we went 3 of the next 4 years to the Final Four. Again, I've been doing it solo from 1986 to the current time, and I did the entire Big East tournament on radio from 1982 to 1999. When we first started, there was only 7 Big East teams, so you had a couple games, semifinals, and then the final. When we went to 14 teams in the Big East, try this. 5 games on a Wednesday, 4 games on a Thursday, 2 games on a Friday, and 1 game on a Saturday. So I did basically the entire tournament solo. I was there from 11 in the morning on Wednesday till 11 o'clock that night and carried through the weekend. And believe you me, my voice was hurting. The good news is my wife's a speech pathologist, and she knows every trick in the book to get my voice to work and work hard. So that does help. In fact, every game I try to call her at halftime, and you know, she doesn't get into the X and O's and all that stuff, but I say, how's the broadcast? She said, you're too fast, go slow. You're too fast, go slow, blah, 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 blah. And I said, okay. And basically, she's been my rock, and not so much from the X and O's, but just from a standpoint of tempo and everything else. You know, as we move along, I'm not going to, you know, take up much more time, but I just want to tell you, in doing 49 years, the relationships that you build, the people that you meet. When I first started back in 74, 75, you know, Georgetown was just getting the radio. We went to the NCAA that year, and the people you meet in those tournaments, I met individuals such as Bob Ryan, Bucky Waters, all the people here, the Eagle family, the people that you meet over the course of the years are relationships that people would just sever to have and to be a part of. And I've always been a relationship builder. In my mental health practice, the most important thing is relationships and feelings and decision making. And I've often been able to use that to my benefit in basically being involved with college athletics and establishing relationships. And in fact, I'll tell you a story. We were playing Duke on an afternoon, and Carolina was playing that particular night in the opening of the ACC. So my 2 older boys were with me, and they said they wanted to go see the Dean Dome. They wanted to go to see North Carolina. I said, look, guys, I said, I'm going to be tired. It's going to be a long trip. You know, I'll be drained after the game. They said, Dad, you're the voice of the Hoyas. You have connections. Make it happen. Okay? So I called Steve Kirshner, the SID at Carolina. I said, Steve, I said, I need a favor from you. He said, what do you need, Rich? I said, well, my kids are driving me crazy. They want to go to see Carolina. I said, could you do me a favor? He said, for your Rich, by all means. He said, what do you need? I said, I need 3 tickets, and if you don't mind, a parking pass. So we're about to play Duke. Art Chase comes up to me, the SID at Duke, and he said, Rich, here's your 3 tickets. Here's your parking pass. Good luck tonight seeing Carolina. I said, how did you know about this? He said, I live around the corner from Steve Kirshner. He said, when you see Rich, give him the tickets. That's the networking that happens. So I go to the Carolina game after we lost to Duke, and I get there a little early because I want to show the kids the Dean Dome, and I walked up to Woody, and I said, Woody, you won't believe this, how I got here. I said, my kids were driving me nuts. They wanted to go see the Dean Dome. They wanted to go see Carolina. Woody looked at me and he said, they made a wise choice. And that was all Woody said. He said they made a wise choice. And it's those kinds of associations and relationships. I took my parents out to California when we were playing at Long Beach State. And I wondered if I could get them to see the Rose Bowl. You know, Scranton had 100,000 people, and there are more people in the Rose Bowl than there were in the city of Scranton. So I wanted to take my parents out to the Rose Bowl. So I called Tom Muldoon of the Pac-12, who I met Tom through the course of the NCAA. You know, real nice man. We struck up a good relationship, and he said, if you really ever need a favor, just call me. So I called him, and I said, I need a favor. My parents are coming out to California. I'd love to go to the Rose Bowl. You know, we're playing Long Beach State. I have a few days in between. He said, okay. He said, what yard line do you want to sit on? I said, well, Tom, I'd like to sit on the 50. He said, no, I can't do that. I can do the 40, about 25 rows up. I said, okay. He said, I'll give you the tickets at will call. Just do me one favor. Don't you ever dare root against the Pac-12. And that was Arizona State and Michigan. So I told my parents, you can't be rooting for anybody but Arizona State because they know who got those tickets. And if you start seeing people rooting for Michigan and say, that's the last favor you're ever going to get. So again, I've had a pretty good experience in doing all these games. I've had wonderful support from the Georgetown Athletic Department. You can't do 50 years unless they have your back. And you can't do 50 years unless you have your brain and you're professional and you work hard. Because everybody in these meetings today very clearly say, you can easily tell when you're not prepared. You can easily tell when you don't have your A game. Now, you can't really, you know, predict the flow of the ball game, but you can tell if someone's prepared and someone is not into it. and I've tried to deliver that every game for 49 years, and maybe I can do another 5, another 10. I mean, who knows? As long as I have my health and my spirit, I hope I can continue on for the future. You know, I've had a few kind of interesting experiences throughout the way. I remember one time we were playing Pittsburgh, and I had a flight to the airport at 9 o'clock in the morning. I was staying at the Green Tree Marriott, so I get in the rent-a-car. I drive down the hill there in Pittsburgh to get on the interstate to go out of the airport, and the car dies. So this Green Tree policeman comes up behind me at, 8:15 in the morning. I'm trying to get out to the airport for a 9 o'clock flight, and he comes up to me and he said, "What's the problem, young man?" I said, the bottom line is I'm trying to get out to the airport. I did a game last night, and, I'm kind of running a little late. Now this car won't start. I said, "Do me a favor. Just take me back up to the hill, back up to the Marriott, and I'll take a later flight." He said, "What did you say you do again?" I said, "I broadcast for Georgetown. I did a game with Pittsburgh last night." And he said, "You know John Thompson?" I said, "I know him very well." He said, "I'm a big fan of John Thompson. Get in the car." I said, "Yeah, just take me up to the top of the hill of the Marriott." And he said, "No, I'm taking you to the airport." So he took me to the airport. Here's a Green Tree policeman going out, must have been 100 miles an hour. I made it to the airport. I took the budget rent-a-car keys, took it to the budget desk, and made the flight. That's the kind of connections you get to make life so much easier. Again, I want to thank everybody for this opportunity. When they call me Dave and Wes, I was kind of blown away because I know the winners that had this award before. I know the 2018 winner, Don Fisher. Georgetown used to play Indiana some great games in the early years in the 70s and 80s. Billy Hillgrove from the University of Pittsburgh was in the Big East. I talked to Gene Deckerhoff several times here during the course of the last few days. Gene was just a wonderful broadcaster, a legend in his own right with Florida State and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and of course, Johnny Holliday, who still works with our station in Washington, D.C. doing the University of Maryland games. Georgetown and Maryland are on the same station, and Johnny lives about 20 minutes from me. And then, of course, Joe Starkey, the great broadcaster from the University of Carolina, or for the University of California. So if I'm lumped in with that kind of personalities who have done such a great job for their teams, I am really, really very thankful. And I want to thank again the people here who have come to this event, because to get everybody together like this, the tremendous amount of media personalities, I don't think you could find another organization like this. Again, thank you very much for the opportunity to be involved in this, for the opportunity to have an opportunity to be the West Durham Broadcaster of the Year Award, and go Hoyas.
Rich, thank you. Congratulations. Very kind words about my dad. Local media will be glad to know that Steve Kirshner helped tickets for the other. Yeah, that's the part that he told me that story, and I thought, whoa, what are the guys in North Carolina here? Kirshner helped out the Georgetown guy with 3 tickets to the game and a parking pass. Never know, Kirsch, never know. Time for our next Hall of Fame inductee, and to present Bill Plaschke for induction in the National Sports Media Association. Please welcome a writer and director and current director fellow at the American Film Institute, Bill's daughter, M.C. Plaschke.
So a lot of people might be wondering why I'm introducing my father. I told my brother that I was doing this, and he goes, "Oh, was Shaq not available?" And the answer is yeah, Shaq was fully unavailable. Don't get me wrong, I do have a very impressive sports resume. I played 1 stunning year of freshman year basketball, and when I came back sophomore year, I was benched because I was not good. And apparently, if you don't practice over the summer, you get bad. I really wish that my dad would have told me that, but he didn't. But I'm introducing my father because I was single-handedly responsible for getting my dad the best seats to the Super Bowl that he's ever had. I know, crazy. I didn't get past freshman year basketball, and I got Bill Plaschke better seats than the Times could ever get him. I mean, are we that surprised? But okay. So my dad tells the story every year, but now it's my turn to tell it. It was the 1995 Super Bowl, Chargers versus the 49ers in Miami. We lived in San Diego at the time. My dad was a young reporter for the LA Times. He had just landed in Miami and decided to call my mom, who was pregnant with me. And as it turns out, her water just broke. I was about to be born. He immediately caught the next flight to leave one of the greatest sporting events of all time to go watch it in a dingy hospital room in San Diego. And that, everyone, is the best seat Bill Plaschke has ever sat at during any Super Bowl. Because he was because he was surrounded not by the 49ers, not by the Chargers, not by Steve Young or halftime show singer Tony Bennett, but by his home team, his family. Bill Plaschke understands, or rather, Bill Plaschke has invented the reason that sports matter is because of all of us. Because all of us are kind of Steve Young, and our families are the 49ers. For my whole life, whenever I call my dad, he answers. And when I say whenever, I literally mean whenever. And there are some times when you should just not answer the phone. I'll call, he'll pick up and he'll go, "Hold on, MC, I'm interviewing Tommy Lasorda." And I'll say, no, please don't talk to me, you should interview Tommy Lasorda. Then I'll say, "Tommy, this is my daughter MC, she just got a part in the play." And Tommy would go, "Oh, cool, tell her I say congrats." And it's like, "Oh yes, thank you, Tommy Lasorda. Congrats to you too on literally winning a gold medal in the Olympics. You were inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame," but no, me getting cast as ensemble member in Fiddler on the Roof Jr.? That's pretty cool too. But for my dad, it is just as cool as the Hall of Fame. Bill Plaschke knows that we don't mimic players, but players kind of mimic us. My dad writes down all the songs that the Dodgers walk out to on his iPhone 8, and when we go to our bar, he asks the bartender to play each one so it'll soundtrack our conversations, making my stories about my love life and friend drama feel so much more epic and more extreme. Let's just say the local bar crowd has gotten very sick of hearing "We Are Young" by Fun. The number of times I've explained a first date to my dad while "We Are Young" plays in the background is insane. But if that song is good enough for Clayton Kershaw to walk out to before he throws a no-hitter, then that song is certainly good enough for his daughter to relive a great first date to. Because that's what it feels like, right? When we meet someone exciting, when we do well at our jobs, when we work so damn hard at something and it finally pays off. That's why we all love sports. It's the adrenaline rush of putting your all into something and hoping you come out on top. It's banding together over a team with your friends and family and watching the players battle in the same way that we do every single day. And that's something that Bill Plaschke so inherently understands and voices in all of his stories. He doesn't write sports stories, he writes people stories. My last story is about my dad and the rivalry he has with his fiancée over the flags at their house. He and Roxana just got a flag holder outside their house. Roxana has kids in college, and the flag holder is always filled with those colleges, SLO, UCLA, etc. He called me one day and said he was annoyed because he didn't have a team for that flagpole. As you all know, or you should know, sports writers have to remain impartial. They can't have a favorite team, not even the home teams they cover. And I've actually rooted against the Dodgers more times than I can count, just so my dad can come the hell home. Come on, don't act like we all haven't done it too. Anyway, so my dad was mad. He didn't have a flag for the holder because he didn't have a team. Then, a week later, he calls me and he says, "MC, do you know that it's Pride Month?" And I go, "Yeah, I'm aware." And then he goes, "MC, did you know there's a pride flag?" Again, I'm also aware of that fact. He goes, "This is amazing news. I'm gonna buy the flag and I'm gonna put it up to honor you." He goes to express order it, and it's still sitting up there today. And I realized my dad does have a team. His team is me, my siblings, Roxana. His team is Sarah Morris, the disabled Dodger journalist that my dad covered. It's Rick Prinz, head coach of the high school football team whose town was burned down. His team is every single person who has overcome an obstacle, every person who has fought for something, every person who has lost something. His team is every person in this room. He loves sports, but he loves moving people with his words even more. And he's so damn good at it. Folks, please welcome my father, Bill Plaschke.
awesome, MC. Oh my God. How am I going to follow that? When I learned I would be given a speech with this honor, I asked MC, what should I talk about? She said, oh, about 6 minutes. So that's all you're getting tonight. And nobody can mute me, which is unbelievable. Thank you, MCs. Thank you, my son, Willie, who shares this honor with you. Thanks back home, my daughter, Tessa, her husband, Charlie, and their new baby, Daisy, are watching back in Northern California. I want to thank them, too. Thank the rest of my family who made the trip, my fiancée, Roxana, Willie's wife, Alicia, and my crew, Barry McCoy and Bill Thompson, their families, Tanya and Melody and Jude. And thanks to management, the most important mentor of my career, sports journalism legend John Sherva. Thank you, John. Thank you, Dave Gorn and the entire staff at NSMA for a great wonderful weekend. Thank you to everyone who's not here, who's taken me to a place far beyond my modest dreams. It started with Gene Wojciechowski, who befriended me when I was covering preps in the Everglades. Thanks to Fred Turner, Fort Lauderdale sports editor, Blaine Johnson, Seattle sports editor, and all the LA Times sports editors, Bill Dwyer, Mike James, Randy Harvey, Rick Jaffe, Dave Morgan, Mike Heiserman, Chris Stone, and Ileana Limon Romero. So many people have been, I've been lifted here by so many people. I'm so fortunate. And standing here in front of some of the country's best sports writers and sportscasters, I'm so overwhelmed at the thought of Marriott points. There's a lot of Marriott points in this room. I am just so heartened by Southwest Airlines A-listers. There's a lot of you there. There's a lot of companion passes in here. And I am awed. I am genuinely awed at the fact that somebody in this room, maybe more than one person, is going to claim this free meal on their expense report and say it's dinner with 2 sources. Right? Am I right? Somebody do that? But this speech is not about numbers, it's about words. Even though some know me from my debates with my wonderful second family on Around the Horn, I love all those people. My life has been a written word. That's who I am, that's all I do. For ink-stained sports hacks like me, it's a miracle, these words. You see something on the field or court, you write what you saw, and almost instantly, if you're lucky, those words will make people laugh and cry or angry or sad. For a minute or two, they're feeling something, and it's all because of those words, and that's a miracle. We all live this miracle, don't we? Growing up in Louisville, Kentucky, I stuttered. I could best communicate through the written word, and I thought I could best use these words to share the universal language of sports. So in the 8th grade, I would go to Little League baseball games, write game stories in a little blue binder, come home and watch my mother type them up on a rickety old typewriter. Then we'd drive their pages across town in the middle of the night and drop them off in the mail slot of the community newspaper. 4 days later, my stories would appear in print and people would comment. They'd say they laughed or cried or they were moved. In some small way, I'd impacted their lives. For the first time, they saw me. I dedicated my most recent book to my mother, and I was headed home to surprise her with a copy when she suddenly passed away. She never saw it, but how she loved the words. And this speech is dedicated to her and my late father. Grover and Mary, I know you're up there. Thank you. In college, my words brought me to another tough time. For my final 3 years, I attended Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, a commuter school outside of St. Louis. We'd moved to Illinois, and my parents didn't have any money. I lived in a church basement next to an oil refinery. At the time, the school had no arena, no football team, and a basketball team that played in the high school gym. So I didn't write about the games. I wrote about the people. The school's competitive pool player doing his homework in smoky taverns. The school's long-distance runner training in a cow pasture. And today when people ask me why I write so many offbeat stories like this, it's because I was raised like this. I couldn't write stars, so I had to write the humans. Being an unconventional writer from a school not known for sports, I had little chance in the national job market. And sure enough, my junior year, I applied for 50 internships, and I got 1 response, Muskegon, Michigan. In my senior year, I applied for 50 more internships. I got 0 responses. I was set to go to work at my dad's printing plant. As a writer, I was done. And then one day in February, I was walking through the snow to my off-campus apartment when my 2 roommates appeared on the balcony of the apartment in their boxer shorts, smoke pouring out the sliding glass door. Yeah, they were drug dealers. So they saw me, and they're shouting, "Bill, Bill, somebody called, somebody called." I'm like, "Who called?" It's like, you don't know who called. I run upstairs, run through the kitchen, and there on the back of a Cocoa Puffs box is written the words St. Petersburg Times. Yeah, somebody called. I called them back right away. They wanted to offer me an internship, and the words were once again my miracle. Thus began a career that really never had a chance except for the words. I had no connections. I had no references. I had no safety net. I just had the words. And those words have blessed me for more than 40 years. From my days covering alligator wrestling for a bureau handout in the Everglades, to covering the Seattle Mariners when they stunk, to covering the San Diego Padres when they stunk, to covering the Dodgers when they stunk. I was only given a column at the LA Times after I spent a week in East LA living with a resilient gang-infested football team. My most read column during the Lakers' great playoff run of the early 2000s was a mid-playoff piece about the courage of a Compton girls softball team that had gone winless in 3 seasons while being outscored 40-0 every game. Those are the human stories that I write, that I love, and that's been my connection all these years. Even the greatest of Lakers understood the importance of words. I used to walk with Kobe Bryant to his car after games. It was just us two. He usually had no bodyguard, no business associates, no friends. He ran solo. It was just him and me. And we walked and we talked. I never wrote about any of it. But he was fluent in 3 languages, Kobe, and he valued words. And when he talked about my work, he never asked about my tweets, never asked about my video hits, never asked about my hot takes on Around the Horn. He always wanted to talk about what I had written, how I had written it, why I had written it. So one day, when I asked him, I said, Kobe, do you want to help writing your book? He looked at me with a smile and said, no way, are you kidding me? You're not taking my words. Those are going to be my words. So yeah, words were so powerful then. For me, it was always words. And those words were rarely about the stars. They were mostly about the shadows. And I urge all of you, don't be blinded by the brightest of lights. The real magic can be found in those shadows. In all this time in Los Angeles, I've written not one feature column on LeBron, but I've written about the bugler at Santa Anita Racetrack who suddenly suffered from Bell's palsy and could no longer blow his own horn. Those were people like us. That's who I write about. That's who I encourage all of you young journalists, look in the shadows. That's where the magic is. For more than a quarter century, I've columnized on amazing things at Dodger Stadium, but no story has gotten the enormous feedback like the one I wrote about a little field down the road from Dodger Stadium. I drove past it one day and started asking questions. There were holes in the outfield, cracks in the infield, and a crooked pitching mound, no working bathroom, no water fountain, no scoreboard. I ran across a maintenance man and said, this field is a shame. He said, the real shame is that this is where Jackie Robinson played his high school baseball. Suffice to say, the field at John Muir High has been totally rehabilitated by the Dodgers and is a shining example of the power of those words. To my fellow ink-stained hacks, I say, when all the shouting is done, when all the hot takes have been fried, never forget what wonderfully, hopefully, beautifully will stay with you forever, stay with us forever. It's the words. No matter where you come from, no matter if you're rich or poor, no matter your culture or creed, you will always have the words, and with them, even a stuttering kid stumbling through life could fly. Write the miracle, be the miracle. Thank you.
Another photo op, Bill. Ladies and gentlemen, let's bring back Doug Logan. And meanwhile, can I get the State Sportscasters of the Year to work their way again to the other side of the room over here? And again, the very difficult exercise of lining up alphabetically by state will be performed. A quick reminder, Doug, before, if I may, the Bull and Butcher, the unofficial, non-sponsored bar area of the fabulous Winston-Salem Marriott has agreed, after a lengthy negotiation headed by Dave Gorin, to extend their hours till 1 a.m. tonight. What's that? Allegedly, it's because Bill Raftery has joined the fray tonight, ladies and gentlemen. More on that from Mr. Eagle, I'm sure, in his scripted remarks. Ladies again, Doug Logan.
Will Ian Eagle please join me up on stage? You know, a lot of folks have enjoyed receiving a round of applause tonight. I'd like to offer one more for our outstanding Master of Ceremonies, Wes Durham. I just want to mention Rich Vodkin, good friend of mine. You know, when you hear his enthusiasm and the way he exudes pride, just multiply that by 1,000 times early in the Big East when it was Syracuse versus Georgetown. Bill Raftery knows this very, very well. Patrick Ewing and Alonzo Mourning and Dikembe Mutombo and Reggie Williams against Pearl Washington, Ronnie Cycli, Derek Coleman, and Billy Owens. There was nothing like it. I'll tell you, Rich, we shared some great times in the Carrier Dome, at the Capitol Center in Landover, Maryland, and especially at Madison Square Garden. Congratulations to you, my friend. All right, now let's meet our 2022 NSMA State Sportscasters of the Year. From Alabama, the 40-year voice of the Jacksonville State Gamecocks, he called national championships in football, basketball, and baseball, plus football wins over Florida State and Ole Miss, and is a JSU Hall of Famer. First NSMA honor for Mike Paris. From Arkansas, 9 years at the Legacy ABC affiliate in Little Rock, an Emmy and four-time Edward R. Murrow Award winner for writing and feature storytelling, he created the renowned series Beyond the Game. First recognition for Kyle Deckelbaum. Also from Arkansas, the sports director of Pig Trail Nation. She covers every aspect of Razorbacks athletics, shooting, editing, producing, and hosting game coverage, as well as documentaries. First honor for Alyssa Orange. From California, nearly 3 decades with the Golden State Warriors, telling the story of a dynasty that refused to crumble. He called Stephen Curry's breaking the all-time record for three-pointers and found time for Stanford Cardinal football as well. First win for Tim Roy. From Colorado, 5 years with KCNC-TV, CBS Colorado in Denver, she just finished covering the Nuggets' run to the NBA World Championship. She once, without training for it, climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. First visit to Winston-Salem, Romy Bean. From Connecticut, 12 years in the sports media, the last 4 with NBC Connecticut as a multimedia sports journalist and anchor covering everything from high school to the pros. He also just learned Taekwondo. First award, Matt Finkel. From the District of Columbia, a 24-year veteran of sports broadcasting and journalism in the district, and host of the #1 rated afternoon drive radio show. He's the voice of the DC Defenders football team. Second recognition for Grant Paulson. From Florida, in his 34th season calling radio play-by-play for the 2-time Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He recently retired from being the voice of the Florida State Seminoles since 1974. 16th honor, Gene Deckerhoff. From Georgia, 12 seasons with the Atlanta Braves radio network, he was behind the mic for the Braves' 5th straight NL East championship. He also called the Georgia Bulldogs' Peach Bowl victory over the Ohio State Buckeyes. First win for Ben Ingram. From Idaho, the 15-year radio voice of the Boise State Broncos, he was on the call for the Mountain West Championships in both football and basketball. 6th honor for Bob Beeler. From Indiana, 17 seasons as the television voice of the NBA's Pacers on Bally Sports, and was in turn 4 calling the winner of the Indianapolis 500-mile race on their radio network. He's a previous winner and Hall of Fame member of the Indiana Sportscasters and Sportswriters Association. First recognition here for Chris Doneri. From Iowa, a multiple award winner who has spent the last 10 years at WHO TV covering all levels of sports, He's also a co-host of the highly popular Sunday sports show Sound Off. First trip to Winston-Salem, John Sears. From Louisiana, this former Division I soccer player covers the New Orleans Saints, Pelicans, LSU Tigers, Tulane Green Wave, and surrounding schools for WWL-TV. First honor for Brooke Kirchhofer. From Maine, the first winner to represent WVII and WFVX in Bangor. He reports on sports across the state for radio and TV. He covered the rise of basketball star Cooper Flagg from 8th grade phenom to USA Basketball Athlete of the Year. First NSMA win for Dave Peck. From Maryland, an Emmy Award-winning sports anchor and reporter for WBFF-TV Fox 45, offering year-round coverage of the NFL Ravens, as well as college athletics for Maryland, Townsend, Navy, UMBC, Loyola, Coppin State, and Morgan State. First NSMA award for Morgan Adsit. From Montana, for the past 28 years, he has produced 2 sports programs each day that air on more than 60 radio stations in 4 different states. He's also a freelance sportscaster of both football and basketball on radio and TV. 10th recognition for Rocky Erickson. From Nebraska, the winner of numerous state awards, he's the sports director and program director for ESPN Tri-Cities and Power 99 The Vibe in Kearney for a quarter century. He's the host of ESPN Radio's Doug and Daddy Show. First visit to Winston-Salem, Doug Duda. From Nevada, 18 years as sports director of KVVU-TV in Las Vegas, he provides coverage of the Raiders, Stanley Cup champion Golden Knights, WNBA champion Aces, UNLV, the UFC, and the announcement of Formula One coming to the Strip. Third honor for Kevin Bollinger. From North Carolina, 27 seasons as the radio play-by-play voice of the Wake Forest Demon Deacons in football and basketball. He also calls Wake baseball for the ACC Network Extra. 6th win for Stan Cotton. From Rhode Island, 9 years on the sports team at WLNE-TV and now a professor of sports broadcasting at the University of Rhode Island. He followed the Providence Friars to the Sweet 16 and the Bryant Bulldogs on their first ever trip to the Big Dance. 4th NSMA award for Nick Coit. From South Carolina, 16 years at WCIV-TV in Charleston, he covers the College of Charleston, the Citadel, Charleston Southern, as well as South Carolina and Clemson. He also focuses on 3 minor league teams, including back-to-back champion River Dogs in baseball. 3rd recognition for Scott Eisberg. From Texas, 18 seasons as the radio voice of the Dallas Mavericks, he described the Mavs' run to the NBA Western Conference Finals as well as the NBA's first ever 60-point, 20 rebounds, and 10 assist game by Luka Doncic. First win for Chuck Cooperstein. From Vermont, 7 years with WCAX, the last 2 as sports director, he hosted the station's inaugural season of Hockey Night in Vermont, covered 4 UVM teams to the NCAA tournament, and 3 Division III national champions. First visit to Winston-Salem for Jack Fitzsimmons. From West Virginia, a multi-award-winning radio host and 3-time winner of the WVBA Excellence in Broadcasting Award for Best Talk Show. He was the first person fans wanted to talk with following Marshall Thundering Herd big win over Notre Dame. First honor for Paul Swan. And from Wyoming, he started doing track and field results as a 16-year-old in 1978, bought his first station in 1991, and has done Wheatland High School sports for 31 years. 2-time state award winner for play-by-play and Station of the Year. First recognition, Kent Smith. How about one more round of applause for all of our state sportscasters of the year and all of tonight's great honorees. Thank you very much.
told Ian to stay up here. It'd just be easier, Noah. Hope I don't get you in trouble for doing that somehow, right? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, the last award of the night is to recognize the 23rd different person to be selected National Sportscaster of the Year by the National Sports Media Association. In full disclosure, this is one of my favorites for a long, long time. Born in Queens, graduated from Syracuse, just an incredible professional broadcasting career that started with some work at WFAN as apparently the host of a wildly popular program called Bagels and Baseball. Yeah. Shocking that was true? That's true. Yeah, very true. Got it, yeah. And again, wildly popular. From that point on, the Nets, the Jets, U.S. Open tennis, Army-Navy game, the NFL, the voice of college basketball next year at the Final Four on CBS, the NBA on TNT, more work for CBS, the Yes Network, MSG, and the Tennis Channel. All along, 5-time New York Sportscaster of the Year. Please welcome Elisa's husband, Aaron and Noah's dad. Ladies and gentlemen, the National Sportscaster of the Year is Ian Eagle.
Thank you very much. Huge honor. I am wrapping up the evening, so I'm excited for you because I'm the closing act. We're right at the finish line. This is the best award show in sports because you know you've won the award before you get here. There's no uncomfortable clapping when the other nominees are mentioned. I can have multiple beers. It doesn't matter. I know I'm getting this thing. I want to congratulate everybody that was honored tonight. This was a really special evening. With the Big House Gaines Awards winner, congratulations to both coaches, Coach Lewis, Coach Terry. Congratulations to our National Writers of the Year, Ken and Pete. The three of us will be playing anybody that wants us in basketball after the event, and Pete will be the center for the first time in his life. So we're really happy for him. They're both terrific at what they do, but they're both outstanding people as well. And I think a recurring theme that you see tonight and throughout the weekend is the humanity that everyone here brings to this event. Hall of Famers, Bill Plaschke is a legend, and he is witty, and he is terrific at what he does, and he has given so many people joy through his words for so many years in this industry. Lee Corso is a dynamo. Lee is an inspiration. All you ever want to be on television is yourself, authentic, and what Lee brings is himself, and you see it every time he's been on television. Rich Shavatkin, 1990 Big East tournament. I was there as a student at Madison Square Garden, and I noticed Rich was doing every game by himself. I was trying to get through one game with a partner. The man is a leather lung. You're at a different level, my friend. Incredible what you've done, what you've achieved. And also, I want to mention our Jim Nantz Award winner. To see Carlo come up here, I'm going to quote Bill Raftery right now, my longtime partner. Onions! That takes big onions to step on this stage, this podium, and address this audience. You've got a huge career in front of you. You are the real McCoy, and I wish you nothing but the best moving forward. This is all I ever wanted to do in my life. There was 1 year, maybe, I wanted to be Jack Tripper from Three's Company because he lived with 2 women on the beach. I thought to myself, wow, that's the life I want. But that was fleeting. It was like 1979. I told my parents at the age of 8 that I wanted to be a sportscaster. And each of them said to me, well, then that's what you'll do. That was it. That's simple. Right to the point. My father said, the only issue is you have a lisp. You're going to have to address that. I said, I have a what? I have a lisp? He said, yes. I have a lazy F? Yes. Well, he actually didn't have a lisp. I did. So I worked at it. He had a tape recorder. I listened to myself, recordings over and over again for 2 weeks. And I worked through the problem, and it comes out every now and again if it's raining hard in Winston-Salem. That's it. No other situation affects me in that manner. You realize in moments like this that this is not about you, but it's about everybody else that has been in your corner for all of these years. So to thank my parents, who I lost many, many years ago, but were absolutely in my corner and empowered me and made me believe at a young age that I could actually do this and make a career of it. I met my wife, Elisa, my freshman year of college, 1987 at Syracuse University. I was playing Tetris in the lobby of our dorm, and I did not want to be disturbed. I was working on a high score. I had been working at this for a good month. I tried to dismiss her in the moment, but she stuck with it. She's the real MVP, truly, the true MVP. But here's the deal. She knew what I wanted to do way back when. This was not a bait and switch. It's not as if I told her I wanted to be a dentist and then all of a sudden I did this broadcasting thing. I would have been a hell of an orthodontist, don't get me wrong. I have a passion for teeth. But I focused on the broadcasting thing, and she believed in me. And she stood by me every step of the way. And she helped us raise 2 incredible kids. My daughter, Erin, is not here tonight. Erin does not know what I do for a living. She actually thinks I'm a botanist. She has no clue. No, she is not a sports fan, but she is incredibly supportive and a beautiful human being. My son, Noah, is here. It's one thing if your kid is interested in what you do, that's a win. If they even show a fleeting interest in what you do, you take that as a victory. To actually have an interest in doing what you do, well, that's the stuff that dreams are made of. Noah is younger than me, better looking, in better shape. The government is looking into cloning. There is the possibility that we may have done a cloning thing. As proud as I am of him as a broadcaster, I am more proud of him as a person and what he stands for and what he's all about. I want to thank my coworkers. A huge surprise when Bill Raftery showed up tonight. That was completely unexpected. I have been ridiculously fortunate to work with great people, but nobody better than this man. I got to know him when I was the radio voice of the Nets for 1 year in 1994. He included me. I stayed out late. I had no idea that humans could function, staying out till 2, 3 in the morning. Yet the next day he would be on the treadmill. Oh, hey, Bird, how do you do this? You're not human. Bill, whether consciously or subconsciously, taught me how to do this job, how to be yourself, how to believe in yourself, and how to bring passion, true love, and let it come through. Bill Also, at some point at a lunch in Milwaukee, we tried to go over how many different partners he's had in his career. And he took out a napkin. He's like, let me see. I think I worked with Jim Kelly. He was just naming random names. Did you work with him at some point? Yeah, maybe at some point. We got through about 18 of them, and then we got our lunch and we moved on. But it spurred an idea for me to keep my own list. And I've worked with 174 different partners now over the course of my career. And when Bill comes to events like these, it allows me to do an impression, onions, or get the puppy set with a kiss. I could just do his job and get 2 salaries. In fact, Bill, why don't we just do that? Don't tell anybody. I'll just do both gigs. All the winners tonight, sports writers and sportscasters from individual states. It's amazing to share this with you and to be celebrated. You deserve it, each and every one of you. When you come to an event like this, you recognize there's a community here, there's a relatability, we speak the same language, there's a shorthand that we all understand. Clearly, Marriott points are immense. I didn't know that before I got into broadcasting, but now I know. Dave Gorin, thank you for helping revitalize the NSMA. And I'll just leave you with this. In whatever it is you do for a career, do quality work, be kind to people, treat them well, and put good into the world. It's not that hard. It's actually much easier to do that than the opposite. Approach every day with a positive attitude and live your best life. That's what we're all trying to do. This is a real honor. I sincerely thank you to all the people that came out tonight, for all the individual winners, for the people that are local, for the people that traveled far and wide, my representatives, Tom Young, Kevin Belby, love you guys, truly appreciate it. Howard Deneroff from Westwood One, my CBS Sports family, my Turner Sports family, Tennis Channel family, Yes Network family. I have a lot of employers. Westwood One family, my actual family. Thank you. It's truly an honor to be here and to be associated with everybody in this room. Much appreciated.
Let me see here. I need Bill Plaschke, Ken Rosenthal, Pete Thamel. Coach, gotcha. You want to come accept for him? Dan Corso's going to come up here. Dave Gorin is back. He's tonight's bat boy. These are custom-made Louisville Sluggers. And we're going to award each of our national winners and our Hall of Famers with a custom-made Hillerich and Bradsby Louisville Slugger. It's a tradition that NSMA started many, many years ago. And we'll ask to get one more round of applause for all our winners tonight. Gentlemen, congratulations. Thank you all again. State winners, Your award that you received tonight does come with a box, ceremonial box, that you can use for travel and packing. We have volunteers here around the stage who can help you find your box if you're interested in using that as part of your travel back home. If your other state winner wasn't here, you're going to see them. We have a couple of awards that maybe need to be picked up. Ask us about those when you check for the box as well. We told you about the after party Butcher and Bull back at the Marriott. There is a schedule of rides to Greensboro for airport service tomorrow on the shuttle. The registration table in the lobby will have that schedule for you. Shuttles depart 2.5 to 3 hours before the scheduled flight. The other news of information I'm going to share with you is right now we are scheduled for the 64th NSMA Awards Weekend and National Convention, June 22nd through the 24th next year. And again, if you would please think about making a donation. It's tax deductible to the NSMA as we continue to make a move on our mission statement to keep going with this industry and doing it the right way. Thank you all so much again for being a part of our special evening. Congratulations to all the winners, and God bless you. Thank you.